The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 910. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Pre-order a copy of Bridging the Confidence Gap: How Empowered Women Change the World on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, and all major book retailers worldwide. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She is a premier leadership coach, and it's a great way to start the new year, 2025. So I'm really excited to have her on today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Sohee Jun. Sohee, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Sheena. So, yes, I am a premier executive coach to high achieving women in particular, and I'm a best-selling author, as well as a global keynote speaker, as well as a podcaster.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Sohee, what's your cultural background?
So, I am South Korean.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
My favorite self-confidence quote, I love this question because I think there's so many out there, and I'm going to borrow from a dear friend and colleague. You may know her, Selena Razvani, who I quoted her in my second book, and she says this amazingly poignant quote of, "Do it afraid." And I have taken that on as my own because it is so succinct in that we will feel fear anytime we're putting ourselves out there. And she and I think you probably understand this really well and live this daily, as do I. When we're doing things that we really care about, we're going to be feeling levels of fear from, if I were to scale it, it could be anywhere from 1 to 10 on any given day. I'll have something on that scale. And it's the ability to do something when you're scared and taking what I call, now I'm adding to that phrase, taking a micro action forward to really help you get unstuck and get closer to your vision and goal.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love that quote because especially when it comes to confidence, we're going to do things when we're scared. When people think we're fearless, being fearless doesn't mean you don't have fears. It means you feel that fear and do it anyway. And when we can learn to push through our fears, that's when we can have the confidence to keep moving forward, to know our capabilities and, see what's on the other side. And so I love that you mentioned that great quote. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I think self-confidence is the ability to tap into knowing that you have what it takes in those scary moments. So it's the ability to know that you've gone through challenges before, but also really tap into the mindset. As you know, like I'm a mindset expert and I talk about it in my second book. And I think the mindset and getting that aligned to help you feel confident is so key. And it's something that people don't talk about often as it links to confidence. The way that we frame a situation, the stories that we tell ourselves, the interpretation of an interaction, the way that we judge others, all of that, I think those constellation of factors adds to confidence and being able to feel confident in the moment.
Thanks for sharing that great definition. And Sohee, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
What was my life like? I think to summarize it, and I'll get under the iceberg of it, what it was like was socializing ideas and looking for acceptance from everyone and validation. So those two, acceptance is one piece, validation is another piece, and they are very closely linked. And it's, hey, if I do this, will you accept me? And people that don't have core confidence knowingly or unknowingly go into that space. And I think the other piece of that is, hey, Sheena, look at this cool thing I did, and really looking for accolades and kudos from other people versus really giving it to myself. And that's the muscle that I have found that women that are able to take risks and move through life with more confidence are able to tap into. And it's a muscle. It's something that as you have listeners out there keenly interested in self-confidence, I want them to know that it's a muscle that they can build through time.
Thanks for sharing that. And I mean, especially, in Asian cultures, women, we've been taught to stay in the background, never make any noise, do as you're told. And so we long for that acceptance and validation, especially seeking validation from our parents. We want them to be proud of us, or even social media. It's like if I have 2 likes, I'm no good, right? It can get to us if we don't have the right tools and resources to work on our mindset to know that we are more than enough, and that regardless of that, we're still awesome. We're still amazing, and we're capable of making things happen. And so what was that point in your life when you realized your potential, especially becoming a leadership coach? Being a leader is not always easy. We rarely see any Asian women leaders out there. And so I'm glad you're going out there making a difference. But what was that aha moment that made you realize you were more than enough to just go for it or do it afraid?
So, in truth, Sheena, I think that's an everyday realization in different ways. I think when you level up in life and you try on different hats, there's another layer of realizing. And so it's very nuanced in that way. So I think where I'll start is like, look, I think people saw in me potential that I didn't realize until probably mid-career or my second stint at leading. So my corporate life has been one in which people were like, hey, 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 we want you to lead. And so early on, I got promoted really fast. And I think that it was an act that I went through versus really embodying that, hey, I possess some really great leadership skills and traits, and I do belong here. And in my early career in corporate life, like you're right, I was one of, if when I looked up, I didn't really see anybody like me. Sure, I saw some women, but definitely not none that were Korean or Asian. And so I think if I'm being completely honest, at times I think I shortchanged myself and said, "Oh no, like I don't belong in that room." And even though people were like, "Yes, you do. We're going to put you forward, you're sitting with the CEO or whatever the context may be." And so it was through a series of those experiences and leading teams throughout my career where something clicked. I think it was just this realization, hey, I keep being given these opportunities. That must say something. So why don't I really embody what others are seeing in me? And let me get curious about what that is. That is, hey, I'm very strategic. I'm very creative. I know how to bring people along the journey. So it really was about getting curious with myself about what are others seeing in me and working to give that validation to myself.
Thanks for sharing. Then I love that you mentioned, you were curious about what other people saw in you because, of course, our biggest enemy is ourself, right? We have a lot of blind spots. We think we're not good enough, but then there's people out there who are telling you and giving you opportunities to become that leader. And, it's one thing to be given opportunities, but it's another thing to seize that opportunity. And you were able to seize it. You're like, I'm going to do it. Obviously, there's a pattern here. I'm going to do it. And even though I don't know what I'm going to do, I'll get the answer. But, because of that moment, what's your life been like now?
My life has been very expansive. I'll say that. It's saying that I'm going to do something that feels very big and audacious. Like, about 7 years ago when I left the corporate world, I told everyone I'm going to write my book, the book that I've been really percolating on. And I think people probably their thought bubble might have been, oh, sure, who doesn't want to write a book? Uh-huh. Like I'm pretty sure, like I won't name names of my friends that thought that, but you get the vibe when people are like, oh, that's cute. And it's been really fun to actually do it for myself and actually accomplish it, but also to like show people what's possible when you lock into the mindset and a belief in yourself to just keep moving forward. I mean, I think, Sheena, you know this. It's you got to work through the challenges, and that's what amounts to success and the building up of confidence. And I think that that's been such a, like, when I look back, a joy to say, like, I'm going to do something big and audacious, accomplish it through all the different challenges, and then have a different vision and iterate and pivot and go for the next big audacious goal that I have. So it's been a series of that, and I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that gives you a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you just went for it, right? You had the confidence to do it, even if people didn't believe that you were going to make it happen, you did make it happen. And it just keeps on going, right? And the challenges we go through, it teaches us to become problem solvers. It teaches us to become more resilient and confidence. Sometimes people think, why are these things happening to me? I've learned to kind of pre-frame and be like, obviously something there's a lesson in here and I don't know it yet, but I know it will happen. And when I look back, I know everything will make sense, right? Sometimes people think, oh, if you just manifest a good life, everything will come easy. It's like, no, that's not how life really works. Yes, there's things, of course, there's nothing wrong with manifestation, but it still takes work, right? It still takes work on our part to go out there, especially like as Asian women, we have to work 10 times harder, right? To just be taken seriously because of the negative stereotypes we go through. So I'm glad that you mentioned like even after you still go through challenges, but it's those challenges that makes you the person that you are today. And to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you'd give to her?
The one tip I would leave listeners with is what's that one step that will help you get unlocked? So I think we tend to boil the ocean and get really overwhelmed when we think about doing something scary and that evokes fear. And to break it down, the best thing I've found, and I tell this to my clients, is like, think about that one small act forward. What is it? What's that thing? Is it calling your mentor to get, insight from them? Is it actually emailing the person that you want to talk to? Whatever that small act is, do it on a consistent basis. And it's the small wins, the small acts that build to the big, what everyone sees as the glamorous end. So that's what I would leave the listeners with is like, keep moving forward, knowing that most people are doing it afraid.
I love that. And I totally agree. I'm with you on that. I always say small, actionable daily steps that yield the big results. I keep reminding, the listeners and whoever I talk to that Rome wasn't built in a day. So don't expect yourself to have confidence overnight, right? It's a journey, it's a process. Just take it one step at a time and you'd be surprised where it can take you. So I love that you mentioned that. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you, check out your coaching services, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Sure, yes. My website is, I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. It's www.soheejunphd.com, and I'm active on LinkedIn. And I also have a monthly newsletter that is just for my community that shares all of the different tips and upcoming things that everyone wants to be a part of. So sign up for my newsletter to follow me.
Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Sohee, you can also head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Sohee's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just want to thank Sohee again for taking the time to share her story and wisdom on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Sohee.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Such an honor having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.